So 2009 housing market crashed and went from making a bunch of money to not. And was trying business after business after business. And you go like, what are my skills that can be applied and used somewhere else? We were trying to buy foreclosures at the time that were on the MLS. We drive by them and go, this one just needs paint and concrete and they're selling it for $250,000. And last year, this was a $500,000 house. We should be able to fix it and sell it. We found out later the reason our offers were never getting accepted is because those listing agents were hand feeding them to like special people. Didn't matter how early, how high, anything. We just couldn't get an offer accepted. I discovered courthouse step foreclosures. The kind of invented an industry with that. When I went to my first auction, there was 2 or 3 other people bidding on 300 houses and they were small time. And I remember first seeing that and going, wow, this can be huge. My first once in a lifetime opportunity. When this can be huge. And no one was doing it at scale. No one was doing it like running it like a home builder. And my dad was my first investor and had the first deal for free and it worked out. And he told a buddy, that buddy told another buddy. People started asking me. I went and presented in front of a group, ended up raising a big fund and running my little house flipping company like a home builder. And we were the biggest buyers in Northern California and bought 1,000 houses on the courthouse steps over the next couple of years, delivered millions and millions of investor profit to people. Did really, really good. Blackstone came into that market in like 2012. Everybody's heard about, that kind of move now, 2012, 2013 to start buying houses for long-term holds. They told me they would put me out of business if I didn't join them. I didn't Google who Blackstone was. I was too young and too cocky. I didn't have a mastermind teaching me how to invest long-term or save or what to do. I tell everybody if I'd had GoBundance in 2010, I'd be a billionaire today because I was printing money and just wasting it because I was just a young, dumb kid that thought, he'd like was really, really special. So 2012, 2013, all of a sudden I'm broke. They put me out of business. I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do, hustling, doing construction work, applying to be an Uber driver, doing a flip here and there. I discover, I somehow ended up at an auction out in Texas to buy an apartment complex with the line of credit that the bank let me keep from my dad after he passed away because they felt bad for me. And apartment comes to bid, going once, going twice, sold. I don't bid on it. I'm scared. I hadn't been good at something in a couple of years. And I was like, what if I forgot? What if I'm getting something wrong? I can't afford to lose right now. I already lost it all. And I remember sitting there being all sad. And then another auctioneer shows up and starts selling houses and nobody's there. And I was like, this is like California 2009. There's no competition. There's nobody out here with skills and houses are selling hand over fist for 50, 60, 70,000. I could not believe it. I flew out the next month and started buying. And I said, this time I'll be buying for long-term holds instead. Yep. I remember thinking after I flipped 1,000 houses and went broke, like if I'd have just kept 100 houses, I'd have been set for life. So this time I said, I'm going to keep them. I'd buy 10 houses and I'd flip 1 or 2 to pay bills and get down payments. And I would keep the rest. Did that from 2015 to 2020. When 2020 hit, I had about 500 houses with different levels of investors and loans and things like that of people that owned them. I didn't own them outright. And some of my owned just me with loans. Some of them I owned outright. A lot of my owned with investors. And then the market, doubled and tripled. I remember thinking like, I'm going to go to Texas because prices will never go up out there. In 2017, I bought a software company that I was essentially buying the leads from. So I was buying the foreclosure leads from a company in Texas. I remember when I got put out of business in California and there were like 300 people at auction bidding on the same 3 houses. I thought the guy that's winning is the guy selling them the list. The guy that owns a company called Foreclosure Radar. And so when I got to Texas and I saw the other company, I had some forethought to say, you know what, I'm going to buy that company because someday there's going to be hundreds of people at auction. I'm not going to be able to beat them at auction anymore. And I'm going to be selling them the widget. I'm going to be selling them the picks and shovels. I'm going to be selling them the list. So my last couple of years, my shift has been I still buy real estate. I still own real estate. I have 800 houses. I've got a couple apartment complexes. I've got some developments that I've been working on, some big developments. But I've been focusing most of my efforts on my masterminds of trying to take people that are already flipping a lot of houses and like getting them to the next level. We call it my inner circle stuff. On my Real Estate Rockstars podcast, I've been focusing on. And our biggest push lately is this new software that I built for myself for many years. And we started selling it to other people 3 or 4 months ago called PropHawk. And that's been the most exciting thing, to take this product that's like, we're using AI to go, here's 300 people that are likely to default in the next little while. Let's skip trace their phone number. Let's text them and call them inside the app. And within minutes, you're having conversations with people and you're getting people that go, yeah, I need you to help me sell my house. Like within minutes, it's wild. It's like, and I think we're And I think we're state of the art, industry leading technology. And we're updating it every day. Like, so right now I'm spending most of my days like building product, like testing out the product, making changes. Like, how can we make this a little bit better? So that was the journey of like, first it was buying and flipping houses, and then graduating to like flipping as many as I needed, but like long-term gratification of like holding as many as rentals as I could. Like my youngest daughter, like she'll buy the rental and keep the rent instead of, doing that now. And then expanding into other businesses. And it was like expanding into multifamily or expanding into storage units, and then into like the operating companies of owning the rentals, or the operating companies like the software companies and things like that. But my most exciting thing that I work on day to day is the software. Managing rentals isn't fun. My team does that. Yeah. And managing employees isn't necessarily fun. It's probably the most stressful, most difficult thing I do. You can't get anywhere. You can't grow something giant without them. But their well-being is in your hands, and it is a stressful balance. And because people are imperfect too. So yeah, that's what I'm working on today, and how I got here. I had a crazy journey. 2021 being in Texas felt like it was my second once in a lifetime opportunity. I learned the stuff that Blackstone taught me, and I bought a ton of houses. Yeah. I saw the market was changing, did really, really well. But I think real estate is an avenue for everybody. Right now it's a very different market, frankly. And so it's a lot different business plans that people will be following, and it won't be quite as easy as it was. But just like buying foreclosures on the courthouse steps, like it's a process that's very simple, but it's a lot of work. So not a lot of people do it. So, but I tell people, like, be grateful it's hard, because then you'll have less competition. So as the market gets tougher, you should have less competition.
Yeah. I'm curious, like, it's probably going to be, I don't know, 3-4 months before this episode actually gets released. I've got a backlog. So I'm curious, from the time that we talk to what happens in 4 months from now, where the market will be, what's going to be happening, and how all of this kind of comes out. But it sounds like to me like there was one of the things we tend to do on, I did the same thing, going paycheck to paycheck, following my parents, just because that's what I saw them do. That's what I did. And it makes me wonder sometimes, recently I was listening to Cody Sanchez on a podcast, and she was talking about how, I don't remember who she was talking to. She was talking to some billionaire, had her over at the house, they were chatting. She said, the guy said, "Hey, do you think you're thinking small because you buy small businesses? Like, you're so focused on small businesses, you haven't gone really big yet." And it's just because that's what she had built in her brain. And I did the same thing with finances. And I'm wondering if you would look at it and go, okay, well, you kind of repeated what your dad did. Not necessarily, like, in a way, because you didn't, and this isn't meant to be insulting, but you didn't learn the mistake that he did. You had to go and do it yourself to learn it, Yeah. And so these times that those happen, how are you relaying that information to your kids? Like, and I feel like this is almost a repeat of a previous question, but not quite, because it's like I want to make sure that my kids learn from my wisdom, not from their mistakes. Sometimes they're just going to have to learn from their mistakes, but I really want to do everything I can to help them learn from my wisdom and learn from my mistakes. Because I did not learn from my parents' mistakes. It took me getting married and seeing something different. And it took you falling on your face to realize, oh boy, that was a mistake, and I don't want to do that again. So how do we kind of prep our kids for that?
Dude, it's how do you prep anyone for that?
Yeah, no kidding.
Because it's really true. When you learn from someone else's mistakes instead of your own, it's true wisdom, right? Like, that's where true wisdom actually comes from. Somebody that can learn from someone else. And frankly, and unfortunately, that's never been me. Mm-hmm. I've never been able to truly learn from other people until having to fall on my face enough times to then start learning. I remember thinking my dad's advice was horrible until I was in my 20s. And then it was like, oh yeah, he was giving me the right advice the whole time. Mm-hmm. And he was like forcing some lessons on me that I needed to learn, that in my 20s, I was glad I learned them, but I didn't think they were good until then. So I don't have the answer for that. I don't have the way that we go, this is how they can learn from our mistakes instead. What I do know is our kids, and what we've seen now, because my kids are getting older, is they pay way more attention to what we do and how we act than what we say.
Yeah.
So I don't do drugs. I don't drink alcohol. I do Ironman races. My kids have never seen me drunk, right? Not once. Mm-hmm. Like, I haven't, like, way before I had kids, they've seen me be super healthy. They've seen me eat healthy. They see me make good athletic decisions. They see me treat people kindly, right? So like I think the best way you're going to have them learn from like your mistakes is really just by how you carry yourself now, right? So like my mistake is I used to do drugs and I did drugs growing up, right? They know that. They know I've been to prison. They know I did drugs. They don't see any of that. What they see is I don't do it at all anymore. And I don't make exceptions to it. And even when someone else has a glass of wine, it's no big deal. I don't. So so there are certain lessons like that I hope they learn that way. I hope they learn because they go, hey, my dad's pretty cool and he doesn't do that. My dad's pretty successful and he doesn't do that. So even though I see my friends' parents drink wine, get drunk, it's okay. My dad doesn't.